everybody, welcome to another edition of Anarchast, your home for anarchy on the internet, coming in from Anarchapulco once again. And actually I've got a second-time guest coming on, Juan Galt. I interviewed you here, I think, maybe at my last house, or maybe it was here, I don't even remember.
It was the other house, yeah.
Yeah, it was the other house. And we had him on before, and he's since moved. He actually had moved at that point, but he's definitely been living here for a while. He actually just came out with a great documentary on all the people who have begun, all the anarchist settlers in Acapulco. A really interesting documentary. But the main reason I wanted to have you on, and we're going to talk about that documentary and all those sort of things, is what's going on with the DAO. And for people who don't know about this stuff, of course, we've been covering Bitcoin here for a long time. We've never really talked too much about Ethereum. So I want Juan to tell us a little bit about a background on Ethereum. If you don't know about the DAO, the DAO, it essentially was a crowd fund, is what you could call it. It started off fairly small, a few $1 million got put into it. By the end of it, over $100 million in Ethereum got put into it.
$140 million. It broke a world record as far as crowdfunding.
Yeah, and then within a couple of days, the whole thing broke. And it was just a complete disaster. It still is a bit of a disaster to this day. So I want to talk to you about that so we can understand what's going on. We'll get into all of that. So let's just get into that. Why don't you just tell from the beginning, for people who don't necessarily even understand what the DAO is, maybe start with, I would think most people understand Bitcoin a fair amount. Start with Ethereum and move on from there about what's going on.
Sure. So Ethereum is a project that's about 10 months old. It launched officially at the end of the summer last year. But it's something that engineers in the Bitcoin community, cryptocurrency community, have been working on for over 2 or 3 years. Started with colored coins, and this is the whole idea of smart contracts and 2.0 Bitcoin and money that is actually programmable, right? Bitcoin it's an excellent money right now, but it's very simple. You send and you receive, and then you can build things on top of it. But Bitcoin was kind of designed to be money, and the scripting language on it, the sort of programmability on it, is very limited. So Vitalik Buterin, the founder of Ethereum, said, well, you know what, we want to create something that is programmable, something that is more flexible, more friendly for developers. And so they created Ethereum. And Ethereum is another cryptocurrency. It's like Bitcoin, but its own blockchain, its own system. And they designed it so that you could create things called smart contracts, which is basically any kind of arrangement of it's basically like a written contract, but with code. And instead of it being enforced by the police or by a government or by some sort of association or a judge, the idea is that the contract is enforced by the mathematics of Ethereum. And so if whatever you write in this contract in the blockchain will be executed if certain conditions are met, or if time runs out on this or that. And so the idea is replace the enforcement layer of governments with a mathematical sort of mechanism, right? And that's been an interesting, that's a way to simplify the idea, and that's been a very interesting experiment. The DAO was one of these examples of what you can actually do with Ethereum, and the whole idea was to create a kind of decentralized hedge fund, right? And this hedge fund, the thing that really interested me about it, and I put a little bit of money in because of this, was that, $140 million went into Ethereum, and all this money is just sitting on a smart contract on top of the blockchain. And there's a voting mechanism, and then there's some security dynamics, right? And then people will make submissions to this hedge fund and say, hey, listen, here's my startup, here's my project. I want to get funding so I can develop this application and pay revenue to shareholders. And so every time anything like that would happen, people vote. The idea is they vote, and then if the majority agrees with a particular investment, then it gets funded. And if people don't agree with that investment, those who don't can stay, or they can split off of this DAO and take their original investment plus any earnings that they already have that have been sort of locked in beforehand, but they can split off and basically, like an amoeba, become their own organism, attached to the old transactions, but the new ones, they are on their own beast, right? And I mean, it's a very interesting idea, and it kind of solves the civil war problem that democracy has, right? Where the majority wants something and the minority are stuck with the decision. Well, in this case, the minority can just split off and have their own system. And that was really exciting, and that was the whole sort of idea of the DAO. But what happened was that the way that the program was coded, there was a bug in the way that the contract was coded, and somebody found this bug. They reported it, or there was some sort of reporting of it, and Stefan Twall of Slocket, one of the lead developers, said of this sort of the DAO situation. They said, oh, we fixed the bug, but they hadn't updated the software, and then the bug was exploited, and a hacker, an alleged hacker, and it's ambiguous whether it's a hack or not, or whether it's theft or not, for a variety of reasons, but they basically siphoned over $40 or $50 million out of the DAO without the approval of state shareholders, without the approval of the security mechanisms. They just found the hack and took out all the money. And
why did they take out just 40, and why not all of it?
I think the reason it stopped is because the Ethereum community became aware of it, and then Vitalik Buterin started talking about, and not just Vitalik, but people started talking about soft forking Ethereum. And what soft forking means is that basically, if everybody in the Ethereum community, if all the miners, or if the majority of wallet providers and users agree that a certain thing, like something in the history of Bitcoin was bad, or of Ethereum, like this DAO hack, if everybody agrees that this was a bad thing, they can all agree to change the history in the past and basically undo that transaction and move on with a copy of Ethereum where that transaction didn't happen, and effectively screw over the hacker, right? And so, and this has been sort of done in Bitcoin a couple of times. There's never, to my knowledge, there's never been anything like this in Bitcoin where an actual transaction gets undone in Bitcoin, but there was a point where there was a fork, and the whole community had to kind of turn from automatic sort of Bitcoin machinery to a manual. Everybody sort of update their client to this specific version so that we stay on track because there's some error and some sort of update or something, right? And this happened a couple of times with Bitcoin. Well, as soon as they started talking about doing this with Ethereum to stop the hacker, he apparently stopped siphoning the money. And so this happened in June 17th, a few days ago, and since then it's been pretty crazy. The hacker started. There's been a lot of talk about the soft fork, and then at some point the hacker started taking money out again, and then a kind of pseudonymous or anonymous group of white hackers that seem to be definitely Ethereum developers. They said, well, we're not going to let this hacker take all the money, so they did the same attack on the DAO and took the rest of the money out, just like $70 million. And so now it's in a smaller DAO. And then
you gotta, it's so interesting. This is also fascinating because none of this stuff was really possible before, right? So this is all really a big experiment. Bitcoin was sort of the first one, and it's done very well. It's had problems. Every year they've had problems and gotten through it. And it's really interesting to see how it always gets through it. Ethereum and the DAO right out of the gate has a major problem, and now we've got like a hacker who's trying to take it out, and then white hat hackers who are trying to take it out before he takes it out. Very interesting. What do you think's going to happen here?
Yeah, well, that's a great question, right? That's what everybody's wondering, what's going to happen. I mean, there's a variety of things that can happen. First of all, there's already been a soft fork that was already implemented yesterday, about maybe 36 hours ago. And that means that all the funds that were put into the DAO were frozen. It's not clear if all forks of the DAO smart contract are also frozen. That means that other people that may have not originally invested into DAO's money might be frozen. It's not clear what happened there, and but this is probably going to come out in the next few days. But basically anything that had to do with the DAO contract, which has a special sort of address, they're frozen. That money can't be moved right now. And the whole purpose of that is to buy time so that the hacker can't actually take its money out, right? And so I think that sort of we're in the process of it right now, and the story is moving very fast. There's a variety of things that can happen. One of them is that Ethereum community sort of votes in some sort of way that's maybe blockchain voting based on how much stake you have in Ethereum. There's a vote, and then the community might decide, okay, we're just going to leave the money frozen, and the hacker doesn't benefit from it, the investors don't get quote unquote bailed out, and we just leave it at that. That's one option. Another option is that there's a hard fork, and in a hard fork, miners would have to make a change to, I think, update their software, and users and exchanges. A very sort of significant move. Would take a lot of consensus, and then basically the new version, this fork in the road will go right, and then the transaction will be undone, and all the money will be returned to investors. So that's the second thing. Now, the problem with that is that it sets a precedent which says, okay, under the right circumstances, you can put pressure on Ethereum to bail out or undo something in the history of Ethereum. And that's a very scary thing. And this event, practically it's a hack, is so big that it's guaranteed that the FinCEN is looking at it, that major sort of regulators are looking at it, banks, everybody's looking at this right now. So you can, like, this is the Mt Gox of Ethereum. And that we more or less know how Mt Gox went, right? Like, it's just lawyers involved, international lawsuits, it's a mess.
Yeah, the whole reason for doing this is to get rid of lawyers and governments, right? So this is a fascinating story. It's been moving so fast, it's really hard to keep up with. But yeah, that is like, this whole system was designed so that you can get rid of lawyers and all these sort of things. And now it looks like that could be involved. Which just turns into a big mess.
Yeah, and it really puts into question the value of Ethereum, right? And the value of these smart contracts, right? Because this is the thing that makes it ambiguous whether this was a theft or a legitimate application of the contract, right? Because in the terms of agreement of the DAO, when people agreed and sent money to it and bought the tokens, the DAO tokens, which sort of is their claim to whatever the DAO does, right? It's like stock. It said nothing that is written outside of that which is on the blockchain, right? None of these sort of PDFs or white papers or what's on the website. Nothing has more authority than the code itself as it is written on the blockchain, right? The law of the land is what's written on the blockchain. Right. Well, that's what the hacker allegedly saying. It's like, yeah, no, I just found this feature in the program, and so I was
very
like, well,
nice feature.
Thank you very much for all my money, right? And so that's the defense that he's putting, and or she, right? And
yeah, it's really fascinating to watch. I think there's going to be so much more happening probably. We'll just have to see what they do. So in your opinion, if they do override it, and so they break essentially the contract, will that kill Ethereum?
Well, I think there's a big question to be answered, right? Does the implementation of a contract on the blockchain have the ultimate authority, or are we going to consider the spirit of the contract as having ultimate authority? And if you say, well, no, the spirit of the contract, the intent of the contract was that money only flows within this sort of rule set with stock shareholder agreement and the security things, then this was theft. But that means that you need to enforce it with human intelligence, and you're going to have to sort of do some kind of human sort of meddling in this, or you're going to have to dramatically increase the security of these contracts to the point where you are as certain as possible that they function as they should function. And that means that this is basically this is going to shock the system, and developers are going to have to get a lot more paranoid about how well implemented these codes are, and we're going to have to develop very strict and very rigorous procedures for implementing smart contracts, or else this is going to happen again. And it's just to be clear, this is not a problem with Ethereum itself. This is what most people are saying that are experts. It's not a problem with Ethereum itself. It's a problem with the way that this particular contract was implemented, and B, arguably, some people are arguing that the coding language called Solidity is not good enough for this level of security. So I think Ethereum is going to be kind of held back by this during the next few months, and a lot of there's going to have to be a new focus into security and into figuring out how this is going to be prevented. Just like in Bitcoin, when Mt Gox happened, all the Bitcoin exchanges basically were like, oh boy, we got to dramatically improve our security, and it has improved a lot. I mean,
yeah, no, absolutely. This is, like I said, it's sort of an experiment, and you brought up how coders in the future are going to have to get much, much better about how they do these things. That's essentially how the government legal system, as much as we all pretty much hate it for what it is, for enforcing very arbitrary things. But when it comes down to common law and things like that, that was built up over hundreds of years, and it's constantly someone would find a way around it, and it'd be changed a little bit. So with Ethereum and the DAO in particular, they were just trying one time, and they right off the bat got it wrong.
And it grew way bigger than they thought. They were thinking like maybe 10 million, 20 million, $140 million, a lot of money.
Yeah, I was really surprised. It was actually very exciting to see the interest level, because even for a person like myself, I'm very involved in this. I've been involved in Bitcoin since 2011. I've been one of the biggest promoters of cryptocurrencies, and especially Bitcoin, and even smart contracts and all those sort of things. And I didn't understand how there was so much level of excitement about this, because I barely understand the DAO, and I'm probably ahead of 99% of other people out there. So who are all these people throwing in all this money? But it's obvious there's a demand. There's obvious demand for this, and it's obvious that a lot of people are excited about the potential of it. Mm-hmm. It's just very unfortunate right off the bat it had such a big problem, and hopefully, I'm sure it will get through it. Even if the DAO collapses completely, even if Ethereum collapses completely, someone else will come up with another one and keep trying to build it. It's just been fascinating to watch. So people have to do documentaries, maybe yourself, and books on things like this.
Yeah.
This is fascinating.
This is going to be studied for a long time, I'm sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and the DAO is already dead. Like everybody's like it's dead. But best case scenario, people get their money back. Worst case scenario, the thief gets the money. Middle ground. This is my sort of the way that I look at it, is that the best choice might be just to freeze the funds and nobody gets the money, because if there's an incentive for investors to put pressure on the Ethereum infrastructure to undo a transaction, that's bad. If there's an incentive for people to hack the DAOs, that's bad. So maybe we just need to, take our losses and freeze it. But we'll see how that goes.
Yeah, absolutely. It's absolutely fascinating. So. Is that your take on general, the same as mine, that no matter what happens here, this sort of ecosystem is going to continue to grow?
Yeah, I don't think Ethereum is dead. I don't think that the idea of DAOs are dead. I don't think smart contracts are dead, simply because this is basically applying, as you said, contract law, which on its own can be fairly effective. The problem with the government is not necessarily contract law, but these regulations that are unilaterally imposed regardless of what contract law says, right? Like this executive actions and all these things that just drag on the economy or the society forever or for a long time. And it's so contract law in itself, where you grab a contract and people just look it over and comb it and modify it, and over hundreds of, not hundreds of years, but a long time, I think this is what's going to end up happening over the next maybe 10, 15 years or 5 years or whatever. We're going to have to create simple, basic, valuable smart contracts that are, grilled and just, combed and until they're secure enough.
Yeah, absolutely. It's fascinating. It's going to be interesting. We'll definitely be watching here, of course. It's just you can't even keep up with all this stuff, especially even in the last week, even with Brexit going on, right? I'm just inundated with so many things are happening. We're just going through a massive shift right now in how everything's being done, including Brexit. And Brexit's going to be interesting as well. And you just look at how all these things are changing, and it's just fascinating. I think for anyone out there, if you're a younger person and you're thinking, what am I going to do with my life, whatever, if you're interested in these sort of things, you should get full into it, understand everything. And actually, Juan, we can talk a little bit about that. I know you've just started doing some sort of consulting and things like that. I think there's a huge market for that, because this is where it's all going to be going. I think we both agree on that. We don't know how it's going to get to where it's going to go, but there's going to be a lot more people getting interested in these things, and they're going to need a lot of help. So programmers, consultants, all sorts of people in this field.
Yeah, so if you're interested in getting into the space, if you're interested in getting some Ethereum, want to know how to secure it yourself, or how to get your company to start accepting Bitcoin or start accepting Ethereum for their products, I can help you out. I do consulting, and I'm connected enough in the industry, knowledgeable enough that I can get you set up. And I mean, yeah, I think that this is definitely the future. There's an interesting thing that happened, right? Andres Antonopoulos and Pamela Morgan, who are kind of big figures in the Bitcoin space, had one of the Ethereum the DAO members and another attorney, and they were talking about this whole situation. And then somebody asked, wait, so if Ethereum can go back and undo a transaction if there's consensus and basically effectively bail out this contract because it's too big to fail, then does that mean that what's the difference between cryptocurrency and a government, right? And they didn't say anything. They were like, yeah, well, we don't know. Like, there's no answer to that question, but there's a very essential difference, right? Governments function like cartels, right? Governments say, listen, we have this product that we're gonna sell you, it's a security product, and we have schools and all this stuff. Have it, and if you say, well, sorry, I just, appreciate it, but I'll take care of myself, I'll, hire some private security, I'll unschool my kids. They're like, oh, okay. And then they leave, and then they send their same sort of security people around the other door, and then it's the IRS saying, you're gonna give us the money, or we're gonna put you in jail, or we're gonna take your stuff. So this is a security racket, a protection racket, and that's what a government is. With blockchains, there's no police that's gonna do a security racket with Bitcoin or Ethereum, okay? You go in, it's opt-in, you put the money, and now you're in the system, and you can take it out at any time, and there's no Bitcoin IRS that's going to come and sort of try to get a little bit more, right?
If there ever is a Bitcoin IRS, I'm out of Bitcoin, by the way.
Yeah, me too. Yeah.
Get a knock on the door. Hey, we're from Bitcoin. You owe us some money. It's like, okay, I'm done with Bitcoin.
Yeah, and I mean, if Bitcoin became so big that there's no competition and people are just born into a Bitcoin economy, that might actually become a thing. But as long as there's enough choices and enough sort of places to move out of the US dollar and move into Bitcoin or Ethereum or Dash or whatever, then there's freedom and there's choices and so even then it's the protection racket that really is the key difference. There's a lot of parallels in some ways because you need to sort of find the power balance and there's the economic supply, but it's fundamentally, I think Ethereum and Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies are actually DAOs themselves. They're not governments, they're not really companies, they're decentralized autonomous organizations, and that's how we need to think about them. They're not governments, they're DAOs. And they're DAOs with tiny DAOs on top of them, some of them, right?
Yeah, there's a great cartoon, I'll try to put it up, where I'll put up, it'll be on your screen right now so people can see it, where the guy's standing there with Ethereum and the DAO guy is standing there, and behind him's the Bitcoin guy, and the DAO guy goes, hey, let me hold your Ethereum, and the guy gives it to him and he just throws it on a fire, and the Bitcoin guy is just sitting there eating popcorn. That was great. I don't know who did that, but that was really great. But that really shows, because Bitcoin is sort of the daddy DAO in a way, right? And it's been around now for 7 years, at least 8 years, and it's gone through all these things so many times in its own ways. And so for people who have been really into Bitcoin to watch this, it's kind of like, especially for people who've been in for a long time, it's like, okay, let these new guys enjoy all the crazy stuff that happens when you try to start something new.
Yeah, I think a lot of people are just kind of watching it with some sympathy and amusement in the Bitcoin space. Interestingly enough, whatever communications we have that are allegedly from the attacker, there's no way to sort of verify that it is the attacker. It seems that there is not just like the guys or the woman is trying to sort of get financial gain, but they're actually kind of, they don't like Ethereum. They're like, and they know about Bitcoin and they know the history of forks. They're well educated, they're technically savvy, legally savvy. So it's a bit of like a fuck you to Ethereum.
Cryptocurrency war.
Yeah, cryptocurrency wars and DAO wars, yeah.
Crazy, absolutely fascinating. Let's leave it at that. That's a lot of information. Some people might want to watch this a couple times to understand everything we talked about if you don't know about this stuff. Let's get into Acapulco. You're a filmmaker as well. You just did a documentary. I think it's called the Anarchapulco Settlers.
Yeah.
Let's, if you don't mind, let's play like a minute or two of it right now.
Sure. Since late 2014, libertarians from Canada, United States, Sweden, New Zealand, and many other corners of the world have been moving to Acapulco, a coastal city once vacationed as the beachfront of Hollywood, now regarded as the fourth most dangerous in the world. Why would they leave their home countries for more than a vacation and choose Acapulco of all the natural exotic beauty that Mexico has to offer? Why leave the safety and stability of the first world and expatriate to the third? Why now?
My name is Michael Nimitz.
Hey, I'm Erica.
Hello, I'm Juan Galt.
My name's Dave Robinson.
I do computer programming, kind of.
I'm Nathan Freeman.
Oh, and I'm Lisa Freeman. Yeah. And did you hear we're married?
I had thoughts of wanting to leave the U.S. For a while, just thoughts. And I kind of at the last second decided to go to Anarchapulco in 2015.
Anarchapulco.
Anarchapulco.
Anarchapulco happened.
Anything you want, you can have it, no doubt. Me, I wanna make like birds and fly south. I want a little spot with a teepee on the beach, somewhere I can pick mangoes off the trees, seaside at sunset doing Tai Chi, then preparing dinner with some fly mamacitas. Family gathered by the fireside, smiling all riding on the highest vibe. We'll be singing songs in the starlight, and my warriors, we be ready all night. I'll be ready by the dark of the daylight, keeping on my shady by the wayside. And if anybody wanna come rumble, I'll be right at home in the...
So as you can see, really great. Watch the whole thing. It's actually excellent. Just so many great insights from so many great people who have moved down here. Why don't you just tell us a little bit about why you made the film?
Yeah, so I wanted to tell the story of why people came here, right? Because it's kind of a crazy thing when you think about it, right? A bunch of people from across the world decide to move to this random city somewhere. Why, right? How does this happen? And it's sort of, I wanted to sort of give them a voice and sort of tell this story. And in particular, a lot of the people that are in the documentary are from the United States, because the majority of people here are from the United States. And the reasons that they have for moving here are very important and very powerful. And I think that's what the documentary talks about. And then we also wanted to sort of get people information and let people sort of know what life is like here. So we're going to have a workshop on Sunday the 25th. By the time this comes out, it might already be done.
Probably already out. You might want to do a second one maybe for anyone watching this. It's up to you.
Yeah, maybe we'll do another one. We'll see how it goes. So
if you do want to do one, we'll put it. We'll put a little notification on the screen, or you can look in the notes down below if maybe you'll do another one after this.
Yeah, and I mean it's going to be online. It's going to be my YouTube channel, so you're going to be able to watch the documentary and the Google Hangouts, the live stream. So it's going to be there, and if we do another one, we'll put it on my channel as well. So that's freedomhacker.tv. If you look at freedomhacker.tv, it's going to be there, or Juan Galt on YouTube, and you'll find my channel on my website.
Yeah, that's great. And one of the big topics, I'm actually still doing a story on it, on what I consider to be a false flag attack here in Acapulco about a month ago. Acapulco was once again in the news all over the place as being super dangerous. It was a war zone. I didn't see anything, hardly anyone saw anything. We even looked into it. It appears it didn't even happen. Why don't you give us your thoughts on the safety of Acapulco?
Yeah, I've never seen any danger here. I mean, the worst that's happened is somebody is drunk and leaves their bag on the thing and somebody takes their money out. That happens everywhere, and that's at bars or just petty crime like that. It's happened maybe a couple of times, but I haven't seen any violence like that. There's a lot of things, there's a lot of ways to look at this question. And we're going to go in more depth into this in the workshop and have everybody talk about it. But the basic is that it's a lot of fear, just a lot of fear mongering, right? I mean, one thing to understand, I think, about Acapulco is, and Mexico in general, is that unlike in the United States, people take pictures of dead bodies here and put them on newspapers, but there's no deep investigation as to what's going on. So people just get freak out and panic spreads. Well, once you look into it and you ask some questions and people sort of tell you what they think about it and you hear about it, you realize that everything that happens here is targeted, and it's gang violence on gangs, right? And it's not tourists, and it's very targeted. And this thing with this attack, it was bizarre because it was like allegedly half an hour of shooting, but then there's one guy dead and another guy with a bullet, like a military guy with a bullet on their leg allegedly. And then you go to these places where there's this shooting and there's not much evidence of shooting. The only thing that I saw where they're shooting is this banner on top of a casino, and there's just like a little bit of spray of bullets. It's like, who are they shooting? There's no balcony, no door. Like there's a door, right? So it's weird. It looks like a false flag, and it's very convenient for the military, I think, because they're kind of trying to justify some of the presence that we do see in Acapulco.
I think it's also the federales. Even the governor of the state, after this so-called event that everyone was writing about all around the world, and all of us were like, it's fine here. the governor even said that it was staged, faked, and I think it was because Acapulco is in a state called Guerrero, and they really are they don't put up with a lot of federal government stuff. They really don't even let them come in here most of the time. So I think the federales kind of staged an event so that they could get the people to say, oh, we need more federales here, and then they bring in more federales.
Typical fast,
yeah, typical, absolutely typical. I was so surprised it happened right here. I never expected, of all places, that, you know, where I spend a lot of time in Acapulco, and I know the town so well, that there was a false flag happened right in my backyard. And actually took a few weeks before many people even realized it. It was kind of, at first everyone was shocked, just like with any false flag, just like with the Orlando shootings. A lot of people in Orlando are all just in shock. And a lot of us probably were as well. I was kind of like, whoa, something really crazy happened here. And then didn't really look into it too much. And then after a couple of weeks, information starts coming out like, no, that didn't happen. A lot of people started saying the governor of the state even said it. And then we did a little research. We went around and talked to some people, and no, didn't see anything. It didn't really appear to have happened. Not in the way that they said it did.
Yeah,
so definitely for people wondering about Acapulco, as safe as always. It's Mexico. It's Acapulco. It's a big city, just like in Chicago. Chicago people get shot. There's like 30 people get shot every single weekend in Chicago. The biggest difference is, like you said, they don't put the pictures of all the dead people on the front page of the paper every day, whereas they do that here in Mexico, which actually I think is better. I think people should see what's actually going on.
Yeah, I'd rather people see it than not see it.
Yeah, absolutely. So people see that here and they go, oh, that sounds like crazy, but it's really, for people like us, expats and tourists, none of us have ever had a problem. So, and I've been here for 8 years. So check out his documentary, really great. And of course, a lot of those people came down because of Anarchapulco, which we're just, by the time this video comes out, we should hopefully be pretty close to officially announcing. I think we're going to announce it on July 4th, just for fun, just to kind of make fun of the US. But we've got some of the speakers up now on anarchapulco.com. Check it out. We'll probably start pre-sales on July 4th. It's going to be huge next year. We've got so many amazing speakers. I won't even mention them here. Just go check them out. And we're still adding amazing speakers. Going to be a huge crowd here again next year, and you've been at the last two, so you know that's a great time.
Yeah, it's awesome. It's awesome. Excellent people, a lot of fun.
Awesome. So check that out, anarchapulco.com. Check out Juan's stuff. Why don't you just give a little plug for your stuff once more?
Sure. One thing that I forgot to put in the documentary that I actually really want to get on is that there's an audio editor that I forgot to, my main audio editor, I forgot to put him in the credits. And so probably going to re-upload, but his name is Nicholas Gathany, and he has a company called CC World Masters, right? I will put the links below. Excellent audio editing, so remastered the whole thing and cleaned up my production, so great stuff. So I'm at freedomhacker.tv, I'm on YouTube, I'm on Facebook, and I'm doing education on how to dramatically increase your online security, your privacy, how to protect your Bitcoin, and doing some Bitcoin cryptocurrency consulting and helping people sort of enter this new world of technological sovereignty that I think is kind of really starting to change things. And people that are on the know are going to get a lot of benefits out of this technology that's later going to sort of get to the mainstream. So.
Great stuff. Check it out. And like I said, check out Anarchapulco at anarchapulco.com. Coming up, it's the end of February. I think it's February 26th to 29th. Or some dates, something like that. I have to memorize them, but it's going to be great. And of course, like, subscribe, share if you like this sort of stuff. Very interesting stuff, especially on the DAO and Ethereum. That's just absolutely fascinating. So if you like this, please like, subscribe, share, and then we can get this information out there. Start to create more better systems that can get rid of these governmental systems, which are absolutely atrocious and backed by force and theft. So we can create a better world that way. So that's it for Anarchast, your home for anarchy on the internet. Peace, love, and anarchy.
Yeah, that'd be nice. I mean, it's like in life when you are supposed to go to this next level and you're stuck in this level, you suffer. And I feel like with technology, we human beings are going to go to this next place. It's just a matter of time, but we're going to need a bull market and freedom, and that means all these people that you call slaves, they're going to have to be on your side.
Where almost the entire country, the United States, had, resonated with that one police brutality act, and it was, caused riots in Los Angeles for quite a few days. And so nowadays, it's very rare that a police brutality act like that. I mean, King wasn't even killed, you know, he was still alive. I mean, he was beaten very badly, don't get me wrong, but so yeah, it's hard to tell, it's hard to really distinguish, but I feel like there has been a shift in continuity since 2001 and 9/11, and I think we do see it more now because they have brought out more of the militarization, and they have been way more heavy-handed with the protesters, anybody trying to express their First Amendment rights. So I mean, it's clear that there is an escalation.
From Acapulco, Mexico, this is Anarchast.